What a voice, what a voice, what a voice I hear. It's like the voice of my melody. What a voice, what a voice, what a voice I hear.
In this film, we're going to discuss the general ethics involving Dartmouth Dining Services food. Topics we're going to touch on include the challenges of providing students with an ethical diet, improvements that DDS has made over the years in sustainability and limiting waste, and most importantly, further improvements that DDS must make. We interviewed 3 students to gain insights as to where students feel satisfied with DDS food and where they would like to see improvement. We also interviewed Beth Rosenberger, who is the manager and nutritionist at the Class of 53 Commons, as well as Don Reed, who is Associate Director of Dartmouth Dining Services.
Don and Beth's expertise was incredibly helpful in providing us with some of the information regarding the obstacles and challenges that they must overcome in order to be more sustainable as a business in providing us healthy and ethical food options, while also giving us some of the places they've improved over the years that allows students to adopt healthier, more sustainable, and ethical diets.
We will touch upon all the finer points throughout the documentary, but to begin with, we'd like to discuss DDS's sustainability movement. This movement included upgrading to a better insulation system and a more efficient lighting system, both of which plan to save the college an estimated $300,000 per year. In addition, DDS is working with its food suppliers to reduce packaging with hopes of diverting 90% of the dining hall's waste from landfills. Further initiatives include recycling waste fryer oil for biodiesel production or for use by the Dartmouth Big Green Bus. A quote on the DDS website says, "We've increased the amount of purchases of both local foods and foods that do not adversely affect the environment. Buying produce and fruits that are seasonal is one example. Buying fish in keeping with the practice of seafood sustainability is another example." DDS advertises that about 4% of their food is local and that 16% of their food is made up of either local or regional food. All of this information is openly available on DDS's website.
We began assessing the ethics of DDS diets by talking to the people who it affects most, the students. Here are some excerpts of student interviews that gauge the general satisfaction of DDS diets, as well as some places they think DDS could improve in diversity and healthfulness of the food.
I've been a vegetarian for about 4.5 years now. No, it pertains to my life as a whole. I became a vegetarian just because I don't really believe in a lot of the commercial farming practices, and there's a large amount of cruelty with how they treat the animals, and so I just wanted to try and do my part and do anything I can to stop that. No, not really. I mean, I think it's hard enough here at this school to be able to maintain a healthy diet with the selection of foods that were offered, and so I feel like it would be even harder to become a vegan. Well, I mean, as you walk into FOCO, there's very limited amount of options, and yeah, they do have a great salad bar, but when you're here for months at a time, it starts to become pretty tough to maintain that with truthfully a lack of options. So you get sick of the food fairly quickly, and so if there was more variety, I feel like I would be healthier, and they didn't just have chicken nuggets everywhere. They could expand into other ranges of food dramatically. At home, I have a large variety of places that I can choose from, types of foods, different styles, and here really the main option for a vegetarian is going to the salad bar every day. And when you're a young boy like myself, to maintain this stature, it's pretty tough to do that on strictly salad.
No, it extends beyond Dartmouth. I'm a vegetarian as well. Well, I wanted to reduce my carbon footprint because I went abroad in high school to this place called Island School, and it was centered around sustainability, and so I got really interested in that, and being a vegetarian was the easiest and most effective way to reduce my personal carbon. Yeah, I actually think that Dartmouth does a way better job than a lot of colleges. There's a ton. I never feel like there's a shortage of food for vegetarians. I know they are working on it with the Hop. It's like the one place where I feel like, or at least when I was a vegan, there was like actually nothing I could eat there. So that's definitely like the most. Well, honestly, okay, I think that if FOCO is to serve genetically modified food, I actually think if they do, then it should be labeled, and then people can make the choice on their own. And I know they're like FOCO's actually trying to like source a lot more things locally and organically, but there's definitely room for more improvement. Yeah. We've talked about this a lot. It's hard because New Hampshire, our growing season is so short that it's really hard to source a lot of food locally here. But I think that there's definitely room for improvement on that. And even if it's not like fully local from New Hampshire, to source like within New England would be better. But they have like FOCO has a committee that's working on sourcing things more locally. There's actually a group that just started last year. It's called Dartmouth Feeding Neighbors, and they come and pick up the food that like hasn't been touched from each night, and they deliver it. I think they deliver it to the Haven actually.
Usually, I've gotten better at picking and choosing which places to eat in order to get a more variety of my everyday meals, especially because freshman fall I always went to FOCO, but now I know that I can go to Call's for dinner and get sushi or pasta, or I can go to the Hop and get a more unhealthy option.
While it's a given that general satisfaction will vary from student to student, we began noticing some recurring themes in their responses, the first being the pricing that DDS uses for its food.
No, to be honest. I think that a meal spent for $14 is kind of egregious. I can buy a nice dinner in town for the same price or less.
I think the prices are kind of absurd because the food we eat is not organic, and it's more expensive than any organic food would be, and you can't get a lot for the amount of money. So if I wanted to on a Saturday get a sandwich, I could go to the Hop and get a gross fried sandwich for $10, or I can go to Market Table and get a nice organic sandwich for $8, and it's closer, but it's kind of a waste of money if I don't eat on campus.
I mean, honestly, I still think it ends up being too much money for me no matter what, but I chose the minimum, and when I'm being charged almost $11 to go have a salad at FOCO, it's pretty frustrating, and so I try and do like pasta bar here at Collis and try and mix it up, but the amount of food that I'm getting, just due to the lack of vegetarian options, I don't really get my bang for my buck.
Another recurring theme that we noticed is that students generally would like to be able to use DBA at off-campus food sources, such as the farmers market, the co-op, or local restaurants.
Yeah, no, I think that would be amazing for my lifestyle as a whole. Being able to have other options beyond just FOCO. There aren't great vegetarian options at the Hop or at Novak, so truthfully, it would be a great opportunity to be able to use your DBA other than just at the dining halls on campus.
Absolutely. My brother went to Colgate University, and his gate card, which is equal or like the equivalent of our Dartmouth ID, you can use it at like the deli in town. You could use it at some of the main restaurants. So it allows you to like use like the fake money, I call it, that we have on our meal plans in other places, which allows you to get a much better variety of foods.
The next logical step was to speak with DDS personnel about some of these problems and what the school is doing to try and overcome them. First, we met with Beth Rosenberger, who's been working with FOCO for about 16 years or so. We had a half-an-hour conversation, and she was able to answer some of our questions and give us further information.
Well, it's produce, but then I'm pretty certain in that number we count, the burgers that we serve upstairs. You see the PT Farms products, all the PT Farms beef and pork. We count that as local because they're in Vermont. We commit to purchasing so much locally every year, and we do make a huge commitment to purchasing local, but the problem is a lot of the farms can't even support the volume of food we need. Collis buys a lot of stuff from the farm, depending upon what's available and what's, they actually write their menu sometimes around the season and what's available from the farm, but it's just the volume of food. But I know Mike uses a lot of stuff that comes from the farm on the salad bar and in some of the entrees and the soups and chilies they make. What I can tell you is, since the federal government doesn't regulate the use of GMOs or not in any food, it's really tough to pin our manufacturers and producers down as to whether or not the food has GMOs in it. If this product are GMO free, the manufacturers usually scream it on their labels, like GMO free and no GMOs and all that kind of good stuff. But if you ask them point blank, is there GMOs, or they don't want to talk about it, they won't, because there are no rules or laws. They have to disclose it. As far as we know, well, I can't say as far as we know there aren't, because the manufacturers aren't by law required to show it. But,
I certainly understand that.
that's the best I can tell you on that. Sometimes I will add different statements like organic or kosher, halal or something, but that's not one statement that I've put into the database saying GMO free, because it's just something that's just popped up on the radar not too long ago. We don't buy very much organics simply because of the price, and if we did buy organics, because you know how much more expensive they are, we would have to pass that along. And honestly, being a dietitian, I've done at least some reading, and I feel comfortable saying that I think making healthier choices on what you're eating as opposed to whether or not it's organic or not organic, I think you can eat a pretty healthy diet as long as you get a variety of, especially the fruits and vegetables, and they don't have to be organic to think or say that you're eating a healthy diet. The best or the most I can say about the upside to eating organics is you're not getting the pesticide residue. But other than that, there's not a lot of scientific data to back up, organics is the way to go and everybody should eat it, because you're going to be healthier, better for eating it. I think it's more of making healthy choices in what you are eating. One of the biggest things is we choose not to serve organics here because it is just cost prohibitive. I mean, you go in the grocery store and you even see it. Sometimes they're as much as 2 or 3 times. I saw bananas yesterday in my grocery store, 79 cents for regular, $1.49 for organic. I just don't see us doing that until maybe it's more affordable. Absolutely, especially with rebuilding of this building and the things we could offer. But the call for more vegan and vegetarian options clearly. as well as I think people are just overall more health conscious, so hopefully they are looking for more fruits and vegetables and lower fat and those kind of things. Part of it is the living wages that we pay our staff. We are a union shop, right? And they are some of the best paid employees in the Upper Valley, and because of that, I mean, that drives our costs up, and that's part of it.
Ms. Rosenberger was immensely helpful in answering some of our questions. She told us that the main supplier of DDS was PFG, or Performance Food Groups, located in Springfield, Mass. However, much of their food is sourced from local and regional farms, as per the Food Day and Food Week challenges, in which they've challenged themselves to gather more food from local and regional farms, such as Upper Valley Produce, Black River Produce, and Boston Market. However, she emphasizes that one of the challenges in finding more local and regional foods is just the quantity in bulk that DDS demands in order to accommodate for students. Furthermore, it is difficult to incorporate more GMO, herbicide, and pesticide-free foods into DDS diets just because at the federal level, it isn't obligatory to post whether or not GMOs are used in foods. Next, we spoke with Associate Director of DDS and 12-year manager of Collis Cafe, Mr. Don Reed, to answer some more of our questions.
And the way that New Hampshire defines local as is produced within the borders of New Hampshire. So if we got something from Vermont,
Very close.
we have to label it as regional. We can't label it as local. What dining likes to define as regional product is within 250 miles of Hanover. Typically what's done is we'll look at the top 100 items that we use throughout the year. They call it a market basket, and we'll give that to the various competing companies. But not all suppliers carry the same item, so they'll match it up as close as they can to what our particular specs are or what our item is currently. For this particular contract, I was able to revisit the sustainability language that was in the previous contract and went from, we had a couple of paragraphs of sustainability language, and we really stepped it up. We've got probably a good page plus of language that was added to this contract. There's a better definition of what is regional and local, and that within the contract, our preference is local, regional as far as produce goes. Within that, we want to know where it's coming from, things of that sort, so that we can identify it within the dining hall that this product is from Maine and this product is from Massachusetts. We made a good amount of references to the Real Food Challenge, which is a project that has recently been restarted on campus. And some of that is some goals that are by 2020, I believe that the time is that a certain percentage of food purchased by college, university food services is going to be sustainable, regional, whatever the case may be. A little bit, but it's just good business. The more efficient that they become with their business, the better off they are in supporting colleges, which are in the food business. The better food that you can distribute or market or promote, it's better for all of us in the long run. I don't know if there's a certain percentage, but there's incentives built in. There's nothing in the contract that would preclude us from doing that. So as far as their minimums or percentages, I'm not sure that that's set up quite like that, but there are certainly incentives for us to purchase more product. The more product we purchase, the more that's on the trucks that come up, the better off for them and us. See, if it's from Vermont, we should be including it as local. Yeah, it's within in New Hampshire. New Hampshire's very strict about that. I mean, every state wants to try to protect their own economy, and I'd have to look at that number to see what where it's from. Some of the information on the webpage may not be completely up to date, sadly. So the number that I would use for regional, which would include local on that, I was going to look at as high as 16%.
16?
Yeah, 16%. But it is going to be difficult to break a lot of that out. It would be something that we'd have to look into. UVM is it's a Sodexo account, so that's a company that manages the food service for the college up there. Dining Services is independently operated. It's operated by the college for the college. Some of these things mentioned before, but it hasn't gotten that far yet. I think it's been a conversation we haven't. That's a college decision. On a level that's not where I'm at. Some of it's availability. Cost might be some factor. Because organics are a tricky thing. Is it better to get an organic product out of California or a local product out of New Hampshire or regional? So there's a trade-off of, and I always felt that I would go the local regional first versus organic.
Mr. Reed affirmed much of what Ms. Rosenberg had told us previously, and also elaborated on some pretty crucial points. However, some existing criticisms are that only 16% of food is regionally or locally sourced, and given the ridiculous pricing that DDS uses for food, this number should undoubtedly be higher, especially given that they aren't required to purchase a minimum percentage of their food from performance food groups. Additionally, DDS does incur a financial profit at the end of each fiscal year, so why isn't more of this money going towards purchasing relatively more expensive local and regional food? Our last main criticism is that DDS doesn't allow us to use DBA or meal swipes anywhere except on-campus establishments and CAF. If they did allow us to use them off-campus or at the farmer's market or co-op, we would undoubtedly be able to pursue healthier diets with greater variety in food. And as shown by the example of Colgate University and the University of Vermont, this can be done and is being done elsewhere, so why not Dartmouth too?
DDS has undoubtedly made huge steps forward in their environmental practices over the last few years, but these improvements don't necessarily solve all of the dilemmas with DDS. 16% for regional and local food is a much smaller number than one would like to see. But the main reason for this is because local farms generally can't supply the bulk required to cook meals that meet DDS's demand. One solution to the bulk issue would be for DDS to serve to fewer students by allowing more outside parties to accept DBA and meal swipe charges. Not only would this help DDS purchase greater amounts of local foods, but it would also give students greater options and variety, especially for vegetarians and vegans. Most dining services provide college students with meal plans that include off-campus meal money as well. UVM allows its students to use their equivalent of DBA at the Burlington Beloco. One would think that since all students at Dartmouth are required to enroll in a DDS meal plan, that the dining service should try to provide the students with the greatest variety of food that Hanover has to offer. Many people accuse DDS of not giving students more off-campus options because they are motivated by profits. There are accusations that stem from information found on David Newlove's LinkedIn page that DDS incurred a profit of $1.3 million in the 2010-2011 fiscal year. These profits are reportedly used to offset costs of the college completely unrelated to DDS. The ethical issue here is that profit margins intrinsically skew DDS's incentives. Are they incentivized to provide students with ethical food that may be slightly more expensive? Or are they incentivized to buy inexpensive food in bulk to maximize profits? All in all, DDS food was actually far more ethical than we expected. Although the amount of local and regional food purchased should be greater, growing seasons in the Northeast make that very difficult. DDS serves more local fresh food at Collis than at its other dining halls because it is too difficult to provide this food to the masses that frequent the Class of 53 Commons or the Hop. Buying such bulk does make it difficult to get food from anyone besides the typical mass production companies like Cisco. That being said, if DDS were to allow more outsourced food retailers like CAF to accept DBA or meal swipes, it would give students a much better opportunity to eat ethically. There's no reason that a student shouldn't be able to use DBA at the farmer's market on Wednesdays or the co-op. The next step in making what we eat more ethical is for the government to pass laws requiring proper labeling on all food products. As Beth spoke about in her interview, without federal regulation, it is almost impossible to know what food is genetically modified or harmfully raised. We went into this project afraid of what we might find about the food we had been eating, and we were walking away feeling slightly better than we expected. DDS is definitely making a concerted effort to minimize waste and to provide an increasing variety to accommodate more and more Dartmouth students. Although Dartmouth Dining still must make improvements to provide a truly ethical diet to students, DDS clearly understands the issues and has been far more progressive in its reforms than the majority of college dining services in America.